Hello, I'm Dr. Infinity, and welcome back to the Trough.
While you're there, I can hear you breathing. Don't you listen to these nitwits, you hear me? This place ain't so bad.
I want to go home. I want my mother. I ain't supposed to be here. Not me.
Today, boys, you're in for a treat. The Trough is full. I got 3 books for you. We have Novelty and Other Stories. We have DeathBringer, and we have Triangle. There's a 4th hidden book, which I'm just going to barely touch on at the end. Consider it DLC. But we have a lot to get through today, and it is pretty late. Monday evening. I meant to have this video out a few days ago, but things just kind of got in the way. So sorry about that. I'm going to be talking about all of these books. My recommendations are going to be Novelty and Triangle. I don't recommend Deathbringer, and I don't recommend the 4th book I'm going to be talking about. The 4th one is a little more debatable, but I don't really recommend Deathbringer. I'm going to have timestamps for all of these books. If you're just here for one or the other, you don't want to listen to me talk about all of them, you'll have timestamps below and links to go purchase the books if you're interested. Since it is pretty late for me, sorry about that. The editing this video is going to be a little faster, and the editing is, not that the editing has ever been good, but it's going to be a bit worse just because I kind of really want to get this done. I'm hoping by midnight this will be all recorded and edited and good to go. So hopefully that's what happened. Without wasting any more time, first book I'm going to talk about is Triangle. This is by Lance Biggums. This guy contacted me and he sent me a review copy. So it was a free copy of the book. I have purchased the book. It was supposed to arrive a few days ago, but it hasn't come in yet. It's supposed to be here tomorrow. It's from Barnes & Noble. The link for it. If you try to get a physical copy on Amazon, it says not available, but I purchased a physical copy through Barnes & Noble, so maybe try that route if that's what you're interested in. I don't know what's going on with the Amazon thing, but this is a recommendation. I just want full transparency by mentioning I did get a free copy, but I have purchased a copy since then, and I just don't want a Gamergate-like situation here, you know, where there's Zoe Quinn and I'm the gamer journalist, except no one's really having sex, you know, which is typical. How many guys was it again? 5 or 7? I don't fucking know. That was a shit show. That was a shit show. But let's not have a Gamergate situation here. So, Triangle. It is about dating. It's about sex a bit. It's about male-female dynamics. It's a little bit about like college and student debt and millennials. And it's about a lot of things, and I like it. It's a recommendation. It's sort of pseudo love triangle stuff. And recommendation, if it sounds decent, give it a go. So, diving right in. Marlon is our narrator, and he is totally not involved in the story that he's going to be telling us, right? The story is about this guy named Aaron in college who Marlon hates because Aaron is just kind of a dweeb, a loser, and Marlon wants to feel better than Aaron. And Stacy is this beautiful girl that spends time with Aaron, and Marlon has to make up a lot of shit in his head about, oh, she's just using him for this, that, and the other, which isn't necessarily wrong, but he's very frustrated that Stacy doesn't notice how great Marlon is. And it's sort of if you know Nutcracker, that one's also pretty decent, where we have this protagonist that's very full of themselves, and they're not exactly self-aware about their position in the world. So it's similar vibes for that. I enjoyed both. Marlon is very uninvolved in that whole situation until we're introduced to Anita. And Anita is, she's a lot of things. Our Marlon is our straight white man, but he's intrigued by this blue-haired woman who's had abortion. She's had many sexual partners, men and women, but there's still something enticing about her. There's still something there. Our character can't really help himself. Let me read a little. I don't want to pussyfoot around it, so I'll start the description by saying she's what you'd call brown, the Siri kind, not the hijab kind. Shameful, 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 shameful. But anyway, there it is.
Soon the great journey shall begin. But when it does, the weight of your heresy will stay your feet, and you shall be left behind.
So Marlon is using Anita as kind of his information since she's best friends with Stacy. And they have a little back and forth about this Jordan Peterson-esque figure that was like banned from speaking on their campus. You know, Jordan Peterson is very spicy, very radical right-wing figure. He's very dangerous, you know. He's definitely not a sheepdog for the right. Anyways, a lot of good humor here. It's a humorous book. It's good, while still like with some good emotional punches here and there. The story picks up with Aaron just comfortably, well, not comfortably, but he's in the friend zone. He's very much in the friend zone, but he eventually weasels his way in with Stacy, and Stacy's had been with many guys that use and abuse her, but she kind of likes that. But she ends up with Aaron after a drunken night. Ooh, I wanted to read this section. She's drunk. She was kicked out after giving roadhead to a guy. And then she and Aaron are kissing that night, and they have sex that evening. And fucking gross. But since Aaron picked her up, and when they got back to his apartment, she has not brushed her teeth. You know, she is not washed. She is not cleaned up. But he's kissing this fucking chick after she just sucked another dude off, and it's fucking nasty, dude. It's fucking gross. But it's like good, you know, it's like it's good writing, but it's fucking nasty. Gross. Marlon is upset about this because she's very much sort of a beta man, if you will, because he's trying to weasel in with Anita that Aaron only ended up with Stacy because Stacy was drunk and she was sort of taking advantage of, like, could she really consent that night? He's very much just this little beta guy crying in the corner, like, why isn't Stacy with me? Even though Stacy's a whore, Anita's a whore, none of these women are good, right? But they're still desirable, right? With Stacy realizing that Aaron is a nice guy, but he's not a good guy. He's not a good person to kind of, Aaron is not the boyfriend that she wants, right? Let's see. I think it's page 49. They're dating. They're at a club. Sorry, I'm just kind of rattling these off, so I'm not going to have like the page there. I'm kind of out of fucking time. Sorry, again. But Aaron was sucking at his drink like a child with a juice box. Sorry. Let me backtrack a little bit. So Saturday night, the night that Aaron and Stacy are getting together, Aaron is alone in his apartment, his basement apartment. He's playing like StarCraft, and then he's looking up porn to look up, and apparently he also looks up Lolly, which is great, I guess. That's super. We get introduced to Brad, and Marlon meets Brad in a karate class, and he's desperate for Brad's attention. He hustles to sit down beside Brad in class so they'd be paired up again. This is a mirror of Stacy and Aaron in French class. Good bit on page 71 with a Focus. I think Marlon drives a Focus and Brad just shit on the car. There's that. We have some kind of black pill shit with Brad seducing and fucking a mom dropping off her kid, like within minutes of meeting her. Well, while she says that she has a husband a few times, and he just fucks her in his truck. There's that. We have Marlon doesn't want to chug a beer with Brad and his friends. He's very similar to Aaron in that way, where it's like he just doesn't quite belong with this crowd, but he has to put himself above Aaron. He has to put himself above Aaron, right? Stacy and Brad, they see each other in a bar. Stacy vows not to sleep with Brad, and a half hour later, she's being fucked by him. She wants Brad to be enchanted and fall for her, but knows it would make him lose his mystique, and she'd probably be bored with him. So, a good little bit of hypocrisy, but it's honest. It's honest. It's there. Aaron had given Stacy a heart locket, and Brad rips it off her when they're having sex, and she makes Aaron work harder to get a real chain for it, and uses that time when he's working overtime to have sex with Brad again. Aaron ends up walking in on them having sex in his... Is it his place or her place? Sorry. I'm kind of having to speed it. But he has a failed day of retribution with a knife. Brad puts him in a triangle lock. Seems deliberate. The triangle, right? There you go. There's our title. But Brad kills Aaron accidentally. And apparently there's no self-defense laws in Canada. I had no fucking idea. That sounds awful. But there's none of that. So Brad is put on trial. And at the hearing, there are no friends of Aaron there. There are just his parents, his grandparents, and Stacy is there to support Brad. And it's fucked. It's just nasty and cruel, but it's there. Stacy eyeballs the rich lawyer Farley. Brad is sentenced to 7 years in prison, and Stacy ends up in a sugar daddy thing with the lawyer, and she has stopped working completely and just doing that. And in our little epilogue, Marlon states that there is some lesson here, but Marlon isn't sure what it is. Overall, I like it a lot. It brings up like a lot of topics kind of within this sphere of things. It's good. There's something with Anita, you know, where she's kind of like the little poison dart frog shit. Shame, 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 shame. Anyways, go by Triangle. I like Triangle. Good stuff. I would definitely read more by this author. And on the Chris Farley scale, which is the first time I've unveiled this on this channel, I would rate this book Chris Farley out of Chris Farley. Okay, next. Sorry, we are going fast. I'm going to apologize for that so many times. This one, not a recommendation. This is DeathBringer. It's a fantasy. I guess I'd call it a dark fantasy, but it's something within the indie sphere, and the description sounded okay for me. I actually saw a review of it in Anvil, the Iron Age magazine, and I thought, that sounds okay. I'll give it a check. But this is not a recommendation. This is a world where society is very matriarchal and gynocentric. I know that's very hard to imagine, but try if you can a world that is bending over backwards for women, right? Just try to imagine that. But there are 14 families who have bonds with magic sentient swords, and only women in these families can use and control these swords. So it makes sense that these women are very powerful and are very influential. That completely makes sense to me. That works. But the rest of the world, like all of the women that don't have magic swords and shit, they are the heads of their household. Like even the farmers and just everything. And there's a lot of women in the military and all that. This doesn't really make sense to me. I never was able to quite immerse myself in the world. Like thinking about, because men are still physically stronger in this world. You know, women are still physically weaker. They still get pregnant. They still give birth. But society's just flipped over this. And I think of like Queen Victoria, Catherine the Great. They were very, very powerful women and rulers, and they were in charge of these vast empires and all that, but they did not change society on the whole to make women the heads of the household and men just kind of in the female role, right? That never happened. And it doesn't quite work for me. It would make sense of like, yeah, like these 14 families, like they're ruling things. You know, I could believe that, but not that like Farmer Jim is secondary to his wife when his wife doesn't have a magic sword or anything. Our main character is a woman named Inga Alienar, and she's the descendant of a sword bearer who was like a crazy lady who started like a war against the other sword bearing clans. And like kind of the plot and stuff, it's not like bad. It's kind of interesting, but she is attacked on her wedding day by a woman named Yenda Avard, and she is a part of a sword-bearing clan. Her husband Piotr is killed, her mother is killed, and her village is burned down. It's just, it's absolute chaos and destruction, and she's on this quest for revenge and to gain back her mother's sword, okay? We're in a world of guns and blimps and all of that. We meet a character named Kale, who is a reluctant soldier under Yenda. He is also a part of a sword-bearing clan, but he's betrothed to Yenda, and he is just kind of like a mating stud or whatever, right? Like a horse, right? And Yenda's also like kind of date raped him a few times and is abusive, but he doesn't speak up about it. I did have a problem on page 92 where Yenda and Kale are involved with a confrontation with some soldiers, and 6 gunshots are fired in the middle of the night in a small town, and no one wakes up for it. No one wakes up to 6 gunshots being fired. This really pulled me out of the story. They should have been confronted or something. Kale mentions women getting the right to vote, buy houses, businesses, choosing who they get to marry, and women have control over their lives. And it would make sense. I know it seems like I'm kind of hammering it in, but I just don't fully believe the world. Like, I think if you gave me like a fantasy world where it's like they're lizard people or something, and the women, they're not really like pregnant for as long or whatever, and like they just kind of like lay eggs and they hatch, and they don't have to like spend as many years as like mammals do caring for their young, I could believe that. But if it's men and women still behave the way they behave, like we do in our world, I just don't really buy it. I don't really just buy it. Her sword is the Deathbringer, obviously that's the title. And she can raise the dead with the sword. And like there's some decent stuff going here. It's not like a horrible world or anything. I wasn't fully immersed in it. She gets revenge on Yenda at the end and is going to keep on moving, and it's just, yeah, it's all right. I didn't like love it. It's not really a recommendation for me. Maybe you'll get something out of it, but there you go. So for Deathbringer, I would have to rate it Chris Farley out of Chris Farley. Yeah, that's just kind of how I feel about it. It's Chris Farley out of Chris Farley. Okay, Novelty's recommendation. This is a collection of short stories by Caleb Caldwell. It's an anthology. It's nice. I like all the stories. I like some more than others. And so this guy was offering copies on Twitter. If you would pay just for the shipping, he'd send you a copy. So I'm like, that works out great, because I was planning on getting a copy on like September 1st, because that's kind of how I do things. I only order books like once a month. So I was already planning on doing a review of Novelty, but he offered that. So I'm like, aha, I'll take it. Thank you. Idiot. But I liked it, so I bought a second copy. It did occur to me after I had bought the copy that I could have just, taken 2 photos and just like flipped it and then edited the photos together. But I have 2 copies. I gave 1 copy to some friends today, so there you go. So I'm not going to discuss each story since I feel like the video is already going on too long, and I'm just trying to go through it. It's stories about mundane, kind of the average. It's just, there's some supernatural stuff. There's some with like deeper themes, but I like them all. We have some about like working at Dollar General, a man who visits crack whores and such. Caleb seems like a good guy, our guy. And yeah, I really like the cover. It's just, I should censor myself a bit. So I'll just say it's a good cover of like slop. We can leave off the prefix to that. So we'll just say slop to remain optical. But this is good. This is an intriguing cover, surprisingly. It reminds me of meals Mother used to make. We won't get into that story. One of the stories, Novelty, namesake for the collection. We have a man named Francis meeting Miranda on a dating app. He wants to fool around and not really stay committed, not stay tied down. He wants new pussy, right? And he loses her, and then he loses Kate, his second girlfriend, who he really has to bust his ass to get. And his performance at work was unaffected. This is great. We have Monkey Grove. This is about an old man telling the same story to anyone who will listen about saving his uncle from a monkey attack as a boy. He sits and tells people about it. The town has become a ghost town, and things just board up and move. And the diner he's at now, which is where Monkey Grove used to be, that goes. And now he goes to a little like gas mart that has like a little tiny cafe, but he doesn't talk about it anymore. And it's good. It's sad. A chef is cursed by a woman who is allergic to something, I think gluten. And women love curses. Women love all that shit. White women love healing crystals and candles. White women love healing crystals and candles. I actually like candles. I started using candles lately. I like it. They're good. Elevator. Man is stuck in an elevator. He's doing okay. But then he starts to blow it with the woman by just overreacting and kind of flipping out, which I couldn't relate to at all, but maybe one of you could relate to it. I don't know, but I couldn't really relate to it. We have As I Hang Drying. This is a series of restaurant reviews, and I won't spoil the ending, but this is kind of nice. I haven't really seen this before, but it's like the story is just a series of restaurant reviews except for the end. This is good. The Man Who Couldn't Watch Television. It's about a man who becomes physically ill if he watches television. He has a good life, but he's distant from everyone. Maybe should have gone Amish. This reminded me a bit of growing up. My best friend who lived on my street, he had a 1 hour rule at his house of TV and video games. So we were forced outside a lot just to play. We would usually just play Pokemon outside. Even out there, our imaginations are dominated by Pokemon. But it reminded me of that, and I don't know. I think that's got to be better than just sticking your kid with a screen. There has to be some kind of balance. Growing up, we had one computer, and that was in the family room, and you couldn't really look up anything bad. Not that I had the inclination as a child growing up, but that's something that's kind of like terrifying with just giving kids like, hey, here's internet access. Just go to your room and be quiet for a few hours. And then mom and dad are so thrilled because, hey, he's being quiet. But kind of growing up, it's like, here's a Game Boy Advance. Here's a GameCube. It can't really connect to the internet. You can't talk to a stranger. Strangers can't talk to you. But I don't know. That's gone. I don't think not too many people give a shit enough anymore. I think a computer in the family room or just visible to everyone. You're walking by, you're doing chores around the house, what your kid's looking at. I think that's good. I think that's important. State of nature. This is one where instead of the young being sent to die off in wars, it is the elderly being sent off to die in wars. This is good. I liked it. And then Antigonus. Finally, someone is writing about my condition. Finally, someone is writing about my condition. Antigonus is about, I'll put up some screenshots for it, but this is about, why I can't have sex. There you go. There you go, boys. There it is. We'll just throw it out there. But man cannot have sex with a woman. His parents, because he will just die. He has some super rare condition. He will just die. Maybe it's relatable for some people. So he's sexless. He is sexless. He's done nothing with the woman. His parents encourage him to be a homosexual. They even encourage gender reassignment surgery, He could go male to female, but, he could date a nice little, not a woman, but one of those female to male trannies, like a zipper tits. Them and their rot dogs. That's something, but they don't explore that. I really like the ending where he's starting to initiate with a woman because he just can't go the rest of his life without having sex. I can't imagine that. I really can't imagine going your whole life without having sex. But anyways, it ends sadly. It ends morosely. That's a $5 word, but I like it. It was very good. Overall, and Novelty. Novelty is a Chris Farley out of Chris Farley for me. Really liked it. It's definitely a Chris Farley, man. It ranks really high on the Chris Farley scale. I really like Triangle. I don't think I really did service with this review, so maybe give it a shot. Really good stuff. I will definitely read more by this guy. I think he has a book or maybe another short story called The Neighbor. Probably in a few months or month or two, I'll give that a read because these were really enjoyable. I didn't feel like any of these short stories were bad. There weren't anywhere I'm oh, I didn't like it. There was somewhere I'm oh, that was fine. But usually with anthologies, I'm here are a few that I think are kind of bad. Here are some decent ones, and then here are the great ones which make it worth it. But the really good ones here are really good. And everything else is good to, fine. I didn't even feel like putting this in the title because I'm going to spend maybe 2 minutes on it. This is The Gods of Pegana, whatever, by Lord Dunsany. The Bizarre Archives is publishing this, and it's kind of about it's a series of little bits of mythology, of intros, and it's just a kind of about the gods of this world. It doesn't seem to have too much of a story. I did not finish this. I got maybe 40-ish pages in. It's not super long. I was halfway through it, a little over halfway, I think. But I don't know. It wasn't clicking for me. So I don't know if it develops more of a story and main characters to focus on. It might, but it just, I don't know. I couldn't really latch on to anything. Maybe that's shitty. Maybe I should give this another try sometime. You might enjoy it if you kind of like mythology and like just kind of like, I don't know if I would say like bare bones world building, but more like really heavy on just kind of like world building. So that's it. That is it from me. I really should have spent more time with some of this shit. Yeah, sorry, but it is like almost 11 on Monday, and I have to get up for work at like 6. So I'm hoping this video is done by like midnight. And yeah, because it's been like 2 weeks since I uploaded something, so I want a little more. In other news, I am 5 episodes away from finishing King of the Hill. Woohoo! Hopefully next weekend there will be a King of the Hill, but it's American History X. Hopefully there's that. Then I'll probably have an overview of King of the Hill where I'll just talk about some of the stuff, and that's going to free me up for other like movies and TV shows and other media to give it a shot. I'll just be more free. I'll have more time to read books as well. I don't know why I just kept forcing myself to do it, but there's that. I'm also thinking about, there's a lot of like Minecraft butt videos. There's a bunch of those. Minecraft butt this, Minecraft butt that. I used to have a video on this channel called Minecraft butt. We don't solicit nudes from our underage fans. I took it down. It was a little spicy. I took it down. It was a little too edgy. It was a little too our thing. But I think I want to do an updated video of that. So I might do that. I might want to push the envelope, if you will. Anyways, give Triangle a shot. This was great. Full transparency. I was given a copy of it, but I really enjoyed it. It's got humor. It talks about some stuff that's like relevant. You know what I mean? Just like dating and dynamics and that type of thing. I like Marlon. I like how unaware he is. You know, he probably dislikes Aaron because he's very much like Aaron. You know, that's definitely a part of it. It's very good. Novelty, great little short stories. I like them all. You know, the cover alone will bring you into Novelty. You know, yeah, the cover alone that should hook you. You know, and even the back cover, it's like, here's this garbage, but there's something appealing about it. It probably shouldn't be appealing, right? Like all this like processed crap, it shouldn't be like, that's familiar. It shouldn't be familiar, but it is. All right, that's it. Thanks for watching. Dr. Infinity out once again. Sorry about this video.
Bye, Claw. All right, you can go now.
Wicked woman! Wickedness! Here, what's this? Augusta's will! Who stole it?